A few days ago, Donald Trump used the term shylock at one of his rallies, and as your resident Shakespeare coach, we need to talk about this. The term shylock is an extremely anti-Semitic slur, and it comes from a character in Shakespeare's play The Merchant of Venice. In the play, Shylock is a Jewish moneylender. During this time, there weren't many jobs that Jewish people were allowed to have, but lending money and charging interest on it was one of them. A Christian merchant named Antonio borrows money from Shylock so that his friend Bassanio can woo the wealthy heiress Portia. Shylock agrees to lend Antonio the money on the condition that, if he can't pay back the loan on time, Shylock can take 1 pound of Antonio's flesh from wherever he sees fit. You can kind of see where this is going. When Antonio inevitably defaults on his loan, Shylock takes him to court for his pound of flesh. But Portia, disguising herself as a judge, gives this big famous speech on the quality of mercy and then proceeds to show absolutely no mercy to Shylock. Portia says, sure, you can take your pound of flesh, but if you spill even 1 drop of his Christian blood, you, your life, and your entire estate are forfeit to the state of Venice. And because taking a pound of flesh without spilling any blood is, well, impossible, Shylock ends up losing his entire estate and he's forced to convert to Christianity. Shylock represents the quintessential anti-Semitic stereotype of the greedy Jew. As you can imagine, the Nazis loved this play, and in 1933, the year that Hitler became chancellor, it was performed in Germany at least 86 times, and in 1938, it was performed in a live broadcast over the radio during Kristallnacht. However, they had to cut huge chunks of the play in order to make it fit their agenda, because even though Shylock is the villain of the play, he's also a victim, and Shakespeare writes him as an incredibly complex, sympathetic, and even tragic figure. The Nazis had to cut every line from the play that portrayed him as sympathetic, including his famous "Hath not a Jew eyes" speech, which you might be familiar with because it's a beautiful, impassioned speech about the inherent humanity of the Jewish people, but in the context of the play, Shylock is using it to justify murder. Again, incredibly complex stuff. The Merchant of Venice is full of questions about the nature of justice, mercy, and prejudice, but calling someone a Shylock is undeniably an anti-Semitic slur. Trump defended his use of the word, saying he didn't know it was considered offensive. But let me remind you that this is the same man who defended literal Nazis marching through the streets of Charlottesville by saying there were good people on both sides. He knew exactly what he was saying. And no, it's not okay.